lots of movies, but more and more, it's just coming down to a handful of blockbusters, because those theaters just want to make money. So to make a movie where you expect people to sit down and watch for an hour and a half, it ain't going to happen. It just ain't going to happen. So you got to start thinking. You got to sacrifice those ideals and start thinking outside of the box. If the objective is to reach people, then you've got to start thinking in innovative and fresh ways. Like that guy I mentioned with the animation. He's thinking in fresh and innovative ways. With the movie that I want to make, that's the Gospel of John, in my head, and it's a dream, it's a vision that started 10 years ago. I wrote the script, and it's written like a movie. But here we are 10 years later, and things have changed. No one's going to sit and watch a 2-hour movie. Evidence of that is Ben-Hur.
I would.
Well, there's about 3 of us. A very few, that was an overstatement. Very few people are going to sit and watch a 2-hour movie these days. And so I've got to think in terms of breaking it up into small segments, bite-sized segments, and releasing it in a way that people are going to pay attention. For example, an app. Netflix ain't so easy. It ain't so easy. You think it'd be a breeze to get your movie on Netflix. Used to be that way when Netflix was starting up. And now that they're the big wig now, they only take your movie if it had a successful theatrical run. Yes. Netflix has become a stone wall. Walmart is a stone wall. It's just a stone wall. Amazon is very, very difficult. So you got hang on just a minute. So it's very, you've got to think outside the box. Got to think outside the box. It's the only way. Yeah. My challenge with this movie we saw last night is, last night, what happened yesterday, and this is a good example. I had one of the 3 or 4 biggest distributors of Christian movies, biggest name. I've been negotiating with them. They wanted to purchase the movie. And I don't want to sell the movie to them, but if I do, it's going to get the movie in front of hundreds of thousands of people that I can't reach. So I thought, okay, I'll do it. And so we've been negotiating. At the beginning, they offered me peanuts. They literally offered me like 30 cents on the dollar. And I just thought, you guys, you're going to make $1 million off this movie. It was cruel. It kind of offended me. And I told them, look, I need to break even on this movie. I need to break even on this movie. I can't go to the people who gave and say, oh, we just took a bath on that movie. I'm not looking for profit. I need to break even. And I told them, I don't need a check for that amount of money, but over time, as you make money off the movie, I need a percentage to the point where I break even off the movie. And they came back to me with a counter offer. Okay, we'll give you this much, $125,000 up front, and I think it was 15% of net. Okay, well, I'm going to tell you right up front. A percentage of net equals 0, because their accountants are working the numbers so that there's never a profit. There's a line that in the film industry, on record, no film in history has ever made profit, because the accountants play games with the money, with the numbers. And I went back to the guys and I told them, he offered a percent of net equals 0. I said, I've been around long enough to realize that. You want to give me a percent of gross, we can talk about that. They came back and they said, deal's off. They're not interested. want to license the movie for their platform, but they don't want to purchase them. And they're going to offer me maybe $10,000 to license. They're going to make a lot of money on it. So, and that literally happened as I was driving to the screening last night. And it was weeks of negotiation. That's how hard this world is. And that's within the Christian world. That's within the Christian small pond bubble. You know what I mean? So, I would strongly suggest that you guys just do your best to free yourselves from any sense other than a missionary intent. And just let the Lord provide. Let the Lord do what the Lord can do. And just say, hey, Lord, I'm going to serve you with this. And I'm just going to trust you to handle me on the back end, to use a film term. You know, I'm convinced more and more it's the only way. I'm convinced more and more. It's like if you're going to try to serve the Lord through media, then serve the Lord. And if you want to build a career, then don't try to serve. I'm serious. That's the way to go. That's the way to go. Again, it comes back to that scripture. You cannot serve both God and money. The Lord will use it. The Lord will do His thing, and it's great. But there's this constant friction. Constant friction. And I have learned through 20 plus years that you just got to lay it down. You just got to lay it down and say, hey, Lord, I'm going to trust you on this. Yeah.
So, speaking as someone who eventually wants to break into being part of the motion picture process, I find that a bit discouraging because it's not like I'm looking to be, super famous or even super rich. I just want to be comfortable with my family. I want to be able to provide for my family. I want to be able to do something that I feel is important. I want to do some ministry things, but I don't necessarily want to be tied down only in that. But what it sounds like you're saying is you either have to basically sell your soul and get rich, or you have to serve God and be poor. And that, how do you bridge that gap? Because I've decided that media is where I want to go. I want to be in movies somehow, to some capacity. Even if my name's not on the front cover, I just want to be somewhere in the credits. But I need to be there in a capacity that both fulfills my personal aspirations and God's purpose for me and my ability to support a family. So, how would you say that happens?
Yeah. First of all, I'm not saying either serve God and be poor. I'm serving God and I'm not poor.
Right.
I'm not rich. But the Lord takes care of my family. My kids are going to college and they don't have to take out a loan. That's pretty neat. That's pretty neat. Yeah. So I've seen God's provision all the way through my process. And the other end of the spectrum is also not the truth, or serve yourself and become rich. In the film industry, 1/100 of 1% of the people involved become rich.
Well, I'm okay with not becoming rich.
Okay, hang on. So, it's you don't become rich by, there's probably less than 1% of the people who attempt it that even make a living. That's how competitive, that's how difficult, that's how challenging it is. That having been said, a guy has to make a choice what he wants to do with his life. Or serve God, or have a secular career. Okay? Can you mix the both? Yes, in the sense that you can make movies and have godly themes within your movie. That's wonderful. But how do I say this? You just got to make a decision. Let's put it this way. I'm going to tell you about Braveheart. Okay? The guy who wrote Braveheart is a guy named Randall Wallace. Famous guy, great writer, blah, blah, blah. Okay. There's adultery in Braveheart. Okay? Well, Randall Wallace is a Christian guy, and blah, 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 and he wrote Braveheart. And I will never forget being in a meeting like this where he spoke to a group of Christian filmmakers. And people were asking him questions. And, you know, he's a bit of a celebrity, and everybody was very excited to have him there and everything like that. And then one guy raised his hand, and he said, you know, you're sitting here talking about being a Christian and serving God in Hollywood and everything like that, but then you wrote adultery into Braveheart. Can you explain that to me? And as you can imagine, the room got a little uncomfortable. And me, I can be a little bit, I kind of snickered. I thought, you know, everybody in the room is thinking the exact same thing. But this one guy was brave enough to say it. And Randall, lovely guy, but he got visibly shaken up a little bit. And he just basically backpedaled, threw the blame on the studios. Basically saying, well, the studio forced me to write that. And next question. You cannot serve both God and money. Nobody forces you to do anything. Nobody forces you to do anything. You do things willingly. He wasn't a slave to the studios. He could have walked away and said, hey, you know, I'm sorry. My Christian values say I can't do that. But he made a choice to make the money instead. So, at the end of the day, we have this choice to make. And so all I'm saying is you've got to make a choice up front. What do I want to do? I'll make it sound more extreme. Do I want to be a missionary, or do I want to be a movie maker? And if you want to be a movie maker, go make movies. If you want to be a missionary, Lord, if you want to weave Christian themes into your, that's great. That's wonderful. The Lord loves it. If you want to be a missionary who makes movies, that's great. That's great. The Lord's going to bless you. He's going to take care of you. He's going to honor that service. But this thing of trying to mix, you know, I want to win my award. I want this. Hi, Linnell.
Hi.
I want. The Lord is all about want nothing.
Amen.
And I will take care of the rest.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, I think, I mean, I agree to a large degree with what you're saying there, but at the same time, I feel like sometimes it's almost necessary to give up being that, you know, perfect, absolute, you know, no questions follower of Christ in what you write for a script, in favor of being relatable and realistic to the story. As in, nobody is perfect. And if you write a character who literally is perfect, there's no point in them having any adventures because everything's already good, right? So somebody's going to have some flaws, and people can't relate to someone who never makes a mistake, who never swears, who never, you know. And most of the world, even many of the Christians, are not even going to bat an eye at things like having adultery in movies, whether they show it on screen or just imply it. And I'm not saying that, I advocate having adultery in movies. I'm just saying that in some cases, I think in order to make a product that is good enough to be considered relevant to the world today, we have to be flexible, if that makes sense.
My answer to that, were you in the movie last night?
I wasn't able to be.
Okay, well, if you were, you would have seen that my characters are smoking, they're swearing, they're very real people.
Right.
So you're talking about two very different things. What you're describing is apples, and what I'm saying is oranges, where you're talking about something very different from what I'm saying. You want to put real people in your movies? That's just great. That's just great. What I'm saying is that as a young man, you need to decide what you want to do with your life.
Well, are you saying
Hang on.
that...
I'm not here to argue. You're young enough to be my grandson. I've walked in this world for 25 years, and you're sitting here as a young guy, speaking as if you know more than me.
That was not my...
No. I'm a very funny guy. I've come here to serve, okay? All I'm saying is that as a young man with your whole life ahead of you, you need to make a decision what you want to do with your life. If you want to serve God, serve God. If you want to make movies as a career, go make movies as a career. But, as Jesus himself said, quote, you cannot serve both God and money. In other words, translation, it's impossible. People are always trying to figure out how to serve God, make money. Jesus said 2,000 years ago, it's impossible. If you want to serve God, he says, you serve me and trust me to provide for your family. Okay? If you want to pursue movie-making dreams, he said, go for it. But don't pretend that you're doing a great service to me. Go tell your stories. It's a legitimate choice, a choice that he honors. And all I'm saying is that from the very onset, you need to make that choice and make it clear. Period. If you choose to serve God, you can put characters who don't know him in your movies, just like my movie last night. It has nothing to do with that. Okay? You want to tell stories, and you want to be in the legitimate secular film world, go for it. Go for it. But those are two very divergent roads. Period. Okay? Next question.
I had actually not finished before because I wanted to follow up.
So, I'm looking at the clock, and we have, I don't know if others are joining us for lunch too.
There are a few, yes.
So we can't, we'll take your question. I had, I think maybe 30 seconds also just about the weekend. So if we can do all of that in the next 3 or 4 minutes, that would be great. Go for it, Conrad. Give it a shot.
Really?
Yeah, just give it a shot.
Okay, I wanted to follow up. I had 2 questions.
Okay, now we're in trouble.
I can be quick though.
And they have to be questions.
Yeah, the first question is, it goes back to my desire for really planting a church that brings the people. What about the media and the gaming industry? That seems to be taking on a different scope. Have you have an interest in that? We don't see much in Christianity regarding that. When I talk about interactivity, I'm talking about also making that available in the building, which the children worship. You know, pushing this and pushing that, learning and just mixing it up a little bit and using some of that gaming to relate to them. What do you think about that?
I think it's great. I think a lot of guys have tried to mix those two with mixed success, but I think it's a legitimate thing to pursue. I think it's an important thing to pursue.
Okay. All right. My next question. Looking at what is happening in our world today and the racial divide that is popping up. We see it in politics and things of that nature. There was questions about I had questions about the roles of the black people in the film. Allison's choice being a little stereotypical. What's your answer?
Yeah. No, I understand that. All the characters in Allison's Choice represented demographic. If I watched the film with me giving a commentary, I'll tell you, what I did was I did research and who has abortions and blah, 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 and I created characters that represent each demographic. The suburban housewife. Very few people realize that there's a large number of suburban housewives who have abortions because they don't want it to interrupt with their style of living. Okay? So there was the character Rita to represent that. Allison, young teenage girl, having fun with her boyfriend. I mean, that's obviously a huge demographic. The highest abortion statistics in this nation today, as heartbreaking as it is, are among inner city African American women. The statistics are off the charts. If you go into the inner city, it's as if, and I'm exaggerating, it's as if there's an abortion clinic on every corner. So I needed to create characters that addressed that specific demographic, not the African American culture, not African Americans in general, but the very real inner city subculture of young women and young men who largely don't graduate high school, don't go to college, very street oriented, very street smart. That's where the character. I needed to create a character that a young girl who lives in the south side of Chicago would say, I know that girl. I know her. I have the same, sass, the same street way about me and stuff like that. So that's where those characters came from. Let me finish. No one is saying that's who African Americans are. This is a specific, very real subculture. Okay. I would also, and we have testimonies from those girls saying, wow, I saw your movie and those characters, they spoke to me. Okay. I would also say this. What I also wanted to do with those characters, if you notice, those characters were the only two characters in the movie who rose to the occasion. They were the wisdom of the movie. They were the intelligence of the movie. They were the noble characters. The character Deshaun is the only guy who was a real man. He's the only guy who showed wisdom. He's the only guy who rose to the occasion in terms of manly responsibility. He's the only strong male figure in the movie. Lucretia was the wisdom in the movie. That speech where she has at the end, where she looks at Alice and says, we're their mothers. There's nothing more heartbreaking in this world than mothers doing this to their babies. So these two characters were the wisdom, the smartest characters in the movie. There's the line that Jesus says, and I wrote this line specifically, to speak to people who look down their nose at inner city people. Jesus says about Deshaun, he says to Allison, you know, most of the world writes that guy off. Do you remember this line?
Mm-hmm.
He said, but not me. Not me. And I wrote that line specifically. And I actually have received emails from white people saying, wow, I was so convicted. I was so convicted of my own racism because of that. Because I looked down on those guys. The third thing that I would say, and this is a thing that has been said before. If I were an African American filmmaker, nobody would question it. And the evidence of that is every Spike Lee film. The evidence of that is every show on the Oprah and Winfrey Network. The evidence of that is 90% of Tyler Perry's shows. My characters were pale in comparison to the characters that they create. And so I would say that's not fair. That's not fair.
You know, I know we don't have
Yeah.
much time.
I was going to suggest perhaps continued conversation at some point, maybe at lunch. Is that all right, Conrad? Do you feel, or do we need to let you say what you need to say?
Boy, it's too.
I think
At this stage of the game,
I think
I can't.
to try to,
I can't really say what I would like to.
in the time that we
Because
have.
we don't have enough time.
Yeah.
But I would love to engage in the. You mentioned two things about your research, about inner city and the what do you call it there? The hospitals. Did you,
Abortion clinics.
abortion clinics, yeah. Did you do the same research in the suburbs? Because there are plenty of those in the suburbs as well.
That's what I said. That's why I wrote the
Okay,
character
but
reading.
I didn't hear that though. And
Everyone else did.
the thing about it also is that you mentioned the let's talk about that. Yeah.
I don't think in the, whatever minutes we have. So here's quickly, we don't have class on Monday. It's holiday. So we have, I'm counting them, Sabbath, Sunday, Monday, and then on Tuesday we have class. So it gives many of you an opportunity, what's coming next. If you have reading or writing that you need to catch up on, rest up, but also do some work along the way, okay? Also be thinking of your project. It's only 7 minutes of presentation on Thursday, but you should be don't make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be, but just think creatively about how you might share that with us in 7 minutes, and the time is going to be really, really tight for that. Everybody has food over the weekend. I mean, you have things to do, places to go. You have my phone number. If somebody needs a ride, go to a store or anything like that, pick up groceries. If you are hungry, if you do not want to have pets eating the only food that you have,
Mine was on
Here,
right down the drain.
so please let me know if that's the case.
Or me. Call me as well. Want somebody. If you need a ride to somewhere and you don't have something to eat, we're here.
And the final thing is just a special thanks to Bruce for, first of all, just coming here for the weekend, and then coming to our class. We talked about the financial part of it. Just your willingness to come and share with us, and we really, really appreciate it. So we can't make a lot of noise here. All right, Linnell, we go somewhere?
Sure, I thought that we can drive if you want and park closer, or we can walk.
It's at
It's at the Kellogg Hall, so it's in the Alaska lobby. Pretty lovely out if you just want to trek or whatever.
It's about, 5 minutes? if we
Probably
walk?
5-minute walk. But I mainly want to make sure everybody knew where to go.
Yeah.
This is my
Like,
wife.
sort of the news.
Hello.
Hey Heather, how are you?
Oops, sorry.
Good.
Pleasure to meet you.
Alexander.
Hello, Alexander.
Say hi, Bruce.
How you doing, buddy?
You want to give him an answer?
He just copied you.
Oh, yeah, you did say the same thing.
He did.
Good job. This little guy's already been on stage.
Oh, that's sweet.
In the Journey to the Crossplay that I was pilot. She was in it too, just in the crowd carrying him.
I was a crowd plus choir.
Great.
And
You know where you're headed.
there was a main scene where Jesus is
Where did you
healing
say it was?
people in the crowd.
Cafeteria, right?
He's holding.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I
he
can be
stood there in
recording
the
this.
spotlight and he didn't cry. And barely
Do you know where the
did pastor
cafeteria is?
cry.
Yeah, yeah, it's like across the street, across college from the ad building, and then to the left a little bit.